And so, it begins. Dark were the skies, and chill was the wind, as the land was covered in a veil of malice. Across the hill did ride a dread army of the night, cloaked in mist and fog, prepared to rain down death and destruction upon the land. And the people did crowd for a savior, a noble soul to save them from their impending demise. Just as it seemed all was lost, in strode a mighty hero, clad in shimmering metal from head to toe. Wielding a terrible broadsword, he did cleave his foes in two, smashing their ranks asunder with righteous fury. And when the day was done and the enemy strewn across the fields in pieces, the people did turn to the warrior and say, "We shall name this day in your honor. Speak unto us your wisdom." The warrior said one word that day: epic.
One man, one murloc, one giant angry badger. This is Blue Please. It begins now. Yes, indeed, folks. Welcome to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com with myself, Total Biscuit. The date today is the 19th of October 2010. It is 8 p.m. and you were listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. What have I got coming up for you in the show today? That was just to speed things up, by the way, because that bit usually takes about 2 minutes, so I thought I'd compress it down to 8 seconds of gibberish. I'm assuming you're not listening to it anyway, so you're not going to notice the difference. Right, what's coming in the show today? Not a massive amount, I am afraid. Why? Well, because there's nothing to talk about. It's the pre-BlizzCon calm before the storm. The raids are out, which I have not gotten to do yet, unfortunately. I did my first session of that tonight. I was landing it over the weekend, which is, of course, why there was no show on Friday, which was clearly announced. Not that people actually paid any attention, but hey. There's not an awful lot coming in the next beta build. It's fairly meh, honestly. Yeah, and, yeah, what is it? Achievements. That's it, pretty much. They upgraded a guild perk. Bartering now reduces the price of items from all vendors by 10%, up from 5%. And also there's a Moonkin hatchling pet. So I can have my own little pet Moonkin to abuse. But I already have one of those. I just get him to follow me around and, you know, give me buffs and stuff. Okay, aside from that, some changes to enchanting, a couple of changes to... nice. That's interesting. I think they must have nerfed that into the ground and then they fixed it, because I think they nerfed mages pretty hard and then they've now rebuffed them. As it's saying that all of the specializations for mages now increase damage by up to 25% for that particular spell score, and I'm fairly sure it was 25% before they did that stupid nerf. Then they probably realized, oh yeah, of course, scaling doesn't work that way, and then replaced it with what it should have been. I can't believe the unbelievable stupidity. That's why it's unbelievable, because I cannot believe it. Well, we're going to make a judgment based entirely on how mages perform right now. But we're going to use Cataclysm-based talents. And we're going to ignore the fact that crit scales really badly, and hit and everything else scales really, really badly in Cataclysm and gets nerfed into the fricking ground. It's as simple as that. Apparently we don't understand this because, you know, Blizzard didn't engage their goddamn brain before using the internet. I don't know what the hell was going on there. Okay. What else do we have? Basically nothing. There's some stuff on the loot table that you can have a look at on MMO Champion if you so desire. There's nothing. Absolutely nothing really worth looking at, in my honest opinion. It's just a bunch of loot. There's nothing really to take from the loot. I mean, if I would say have a look at this, Maldo's Sword Cane, for instance, which is a one-handed sword, item level 359. What has it got? Crit, mastery, spell power, in stamina. Woo! And so forth. Massive freaking care. Like I said, there's nothing to really look at there. There's nothing to really discuss. What else? Well, like I said, there's going to be raid testing tonight. They're scheduling Maloriac and Antremides in Blackwing Descent tonight on all realms. That is not currently happening. It's a good job I decided to do the show instead of waiting for an EU raid, because as it turns out, EU raiding didn't happen because there was extended US maintenance. Now, what that does is it takes all of the instance servers offline across the board, regardless of whether or not it's EU or US. So, meh. Big deal. We're going to have to wait for that, and hopefully I can get some filming done tonight on it. Obviously, it can change due to a moment's notice and server issues, but yeah, this is the interesting thing that I take from this, by the way. More raid tests will be occurring over the next few weeks. So what that means is that if we take few weeks, yeah? Few to me, if it was 2, then it would be couple. So few means that the beta is going on for at least 3 more weeks. So we go 19 to the 26th. So, I mean, even if it ended, it would only end mid-November. So, you know, there's still almost a month of it left, and that's assuming that they don't go on after that. So, yeah, by the looks of it, it does mean the beta is going on for quite some time, which is good, because that means we can get more footage out and we can do more cool stuff, which is always nice. Also, Blizzard decided to release a preview of the Stone Core. As to why they did that, I really don't know, considering there are many, many videos, including mine, already out for the Stone Core. It's rather crazy. Oh dear. Looking at it right now, it's a couple of nice screenshots, but like I said, all of this stuff we already know. I mean, it's nice to get a little bit of lore behind it, but I do wonder why they can't release their own video footage for stuff like this. I mean, really, just a little tour or something. 5 screenshots and a little bit of lore doesn't really qualify as a preview. I've actually been quite surprised by the lack of information all the way through the beta period, from Blizzard to people who aren't in the beta. It's like, well, it's like that they just don't care, or they are relying on other people, which I suppose is okay, but, you know, it's not like they ever officially link to us or anything. So, I don't know. I don't know why it is that there's such a lack of information. Was Wrath like that? I think it kind of was, wasn't it? They just don't seem to release an awful lot of info and seem to rely on people outside of that, which, you know, I'm not complaining. That's not a problem. I mean, people that are in the beta are happy to give information. I'm just quite surprised that they don't take more direct control of their own PR. Because, let's be honest, right now, their PR is entirely based on the people that are playing their beta. So either that shows an overwhelming sense of confidence in their product, which is reasonable considering their product is good, or they're just being really quiet and lazy, and I don't really know why. Maybe they're just really, really busy and they can't be bothered, but whatever the case, you can rely on people in the beta to provide you with good information, at least. There's no real doubt about that. Okay, that's really about all that's been happening. I'm also told that raid testing tonight has been cancelled, by the way, so by the looks of it, we might not be getting anything, although on the EU beta realms it says it's going to be cancelled. I don't know about the US. Don't know. It is possible that they might still run one on the US. I do have pre-made on the US, and I do have pre-made on the EU as well, on both sides of the US and on both Alliance and Horde. So if there are any tests tonight at all, at a reasonable time, I will do them. If there aren't, then I won't, and there's not a lot I can really do about that. But we will just keep going, and see what happens. Okay. In the meantime, folks, I suppose it's time for this.
That sounds like it's mail time. Here's the mail.
It never fails.
It makes me want to wag my tail. When it comes,
I want to wail.
Yes, indeed, folks, it is the mail time. That would be the time where we read the mail. That's, well, it's not the entire show. Like I said, I'm going to go and have a look at the cinematics, because I do really believe that the Cataclysm cinematic, while technically proficient, and indeed visually stunning, also lacks any degree of substance. As in, you know, I've never, ever, I might add, ever disguise the fact that TBC was my favourite expansion. And the TBC cinematic is also my favourite, so yeah, we'll have a look at that a little bit later on, and we'll do a little bit of compare and contrast between what was in the TBC one, what was in the Wrath one, and what was in that one. Anyway, let's go and have a look at some emails. This one I like. I'm going to read this one because this is a good topic. Dear Crazy Brit, I have a question about the state of raiding at the moment. Being a raider all the way back into the olden days, and yourself being a person who's experienced the old raiding, do you feel that the public raid testing hurts the overall experience of the surprise of raiding? Also, do you feel that this makes raiding easier for people who can just look up strategies before the raid even goes live, and then have some idea of what to do, rather than learning the hard way of wiping and learning it on their own? That's from Chorarun of Nezul Blumen Guild of America. Also, PS trollface.jpg. Yeah, currently in Germany, I want to play on EU service, so I figured, yep, cool. Trollface.jpg, Anchorage EU, by the way, hasn't been, well, it's technically been formed, but I'm not inviting yet. It will happen. Right, anyway, yeah, actually, I do believe that it genuinely harms the raid experience. I know, I mean, the thing about looking up strategy guides is that the kind of people who are capable of doing it otherwise and who are probably going to be in there really, really early, and we're also talking about the kind of people that would actually willingly test, aren't going to have that kind of problem anyway. And the people that use strategy guides are going to have them by the time they reach the raiding anyway, because they're not going to have power leveled up, they're not going to have got prepared, they're not going to be quickly ready, because bear in mind, you've got to do the heroics, make sure you're properly geared for everything, and not rush your way in there. There has to be a degree of preparation there. And the kind of people that do prepare, and that are capable of going that quickly, are also the kind of people that don't actually need strategy guides that early on. That said, bear in mind that the ones who are going to be a little slower are going to have strategy guides anyway, because they will come out really, really, really fast. They will. There's unquestionably they're going to come out really, really fast. You can see it. I mean, you've got sites like Boss Killers that actually pay money for guides. Yeah, they have a monetary incentive for releasing guides. You've got Tank Spot, who, well, it is their monetary incentive to release guides. Why? Because that's how they make some of their money. That's how they make a lot of their money, in fact. That's how their business model runs. If they don't get the guides out quick enough and to a sufficient standard, people will not watch them, so they're not making any money off their site. I mean, hell, it's come to the point where I need to be pretty quick about releasing stuff like that. Because, hey, it actually matters to me. Because this is my job now. And I need people to watch my stuff. So, one way or the other, there's going to always be a massive competition to release guides. And whether or not they come in the beta, or whether or not they end up coming in the actual game itself, is not going to make a difference for the vast majority of the population of WoW. Because they're going to get a strategy guide one way or the other. That said, yes, it absolutely does hurt it. Without a question, it hurts the progression, it makes things more boring, it makes things easier to kill. I am annoyed that Blizzard cannot test their own raid content. I'm not suggesting they test their entire game themselves. Not at all. What I am suggesting is that raid content should be tested by an internal team. Several internal teams. There should be people who are either hired or at least given some kind of perk to do this. Not have everyone and their mother playing it. I mean, right now, you've got, say, the fact that Paragon, for instance, is actually in the beta and able to run instances. That means that at least 10, if not 25 people from Paragon are in the beta. So, what are the chances of that? It seems to me that if 25 people from Paragon are in the beta, then they've been given beta access deliberately to test. Is it a good idea to give people like Paragon and like Insidia access to test this stuff? Because while I know they're very experienced, and they will be extremely good for testing, doesn't that also sort of skew the progression race in favour of guilds that are long established and have this kind of reputation and have this kind of influence with Blizzard, whereby they could say, oi, give us access? And to be honest, Blizzard probably went to them. This has happened before. You've seen it happen before. They've invited these kind of guilds into it. And it's not the guild's fault. The problem I've got, actually, is that the guild is forced to do this. They're forced to do this because if they don't, they're not competitive. And these guilds don't want to do it. I've had them on the show before. I've had people like Premonition, I've had people like Insidia on the show who have said, we do not want to do this, but we do not have a choice. Because if we don't, then someone else will. and that person will be one of our competitors. And yes, competitive PvE content matters. There is money behind it. People are sponsored to do this kind of thing. Guilds rise or fall based on how well they do in PvE. PvE is the main part of the game, unquestionably. Every single time, ever since vanilla, it has always been the main part of endgame. PvP exists, sure, but we're not testing PvP, are we? I mean, PvE has to be tested in some capacity because it's scripted. And if the scripting doesn't work and the balance doesn't work, then you can't kill it. And we've seen just how bad that was back in vanilla, with many, many bosses that just couldn't be done. I mean, Blackwing Lair was a freaking joke on launch. You also had Cthulhu that could not be killed. There were a number of other bosses that could not be killed. And they then opened up the PTR, but at the end of the day, they still didn't fix everything. TBC was particularly bad as well. You had Groll, who was basically unkillable. You had Vash, who was basically unkillable. You had Serpent Shrine, that was basically unkillable. It had a 45-minute trash respawn and a bunch of buggy, horrible things to do. What has become clear is that Blizzard can't test their own content, but the problem is that we are suffering as a direct result of that. That inability to test their content directly affects the PvE progression rate. It forces higher-end guilds, in order to actually compete, they have to do something they do not want to do. Why would you want to do content and then do it again on live? People ask me this all the time. Aren't you going to get bored on live? And probably, yeah, I probably will. But at the end of the day, I'm in a position whereby I need to be doing what I'm doing. I will probably get bored quicker of Cataclysm as a direct result of that. But, you know, I'm going to be trying other things and say I might even roll an alt. You know, I want my nice troll druid. I'm thinking about that. So I might do some things that I wouldn't otherwise do in order to keep me interested in the game and keep me playing, keep me making videos. But yeah, it is rubbish. It's awful that it has to happen. But unfortunately, Blizzard has proven in the past that they are literally incapable of doing it properly. My name's Total Biscuit, and you're listening to Blue Please here on CynicalBrit.com. We've got some Sonata Arctica for you. This goes by the name of Caleb, and I'll be right back after this. Enjoy.